counterpart. Go back a year from now.
Yeah.
Getting started, getting connected, and the growth you've had individually as a team, just how you feel now compared to a year ago.
Yeah, I think anytime you get to year two, it's always a little bit easier from the standpoint you're more familiar with the players. Even from a staff, you're kind of coming together and you're doing it for the second time. So I think there's a little bit of understanding of the expectations, a little bit better understanding of the schemes and the techniques that we're teaching. So I think all in all, it's been really good. We had a good January through today. Obviously getting into practice mode, which I think we're 7 in now, which is good, and getting the different situations. So I think you just feel a little bit more ahead than you were at this time last year.
Expectations, you touched on that. How do expectations change and how do they stay the same?
Well, the expectation is always to be the best we can be. I mean, I think honestly, especially in 2025, where you've got a little bit of movement on the roster more than say 10 years ago, hey, what is this roster and what can it be and what can be its best? Now, I think this group, and I've said this a couple times to the staff defensively, this group will be its best. And the reason I know that is because they work really hard and they care. And when you get around a group that works really hard and cares, they're going to hit their ceiling, right? Now, what is that ceiling? We're figuring that out. We've made additions to the roster since the end of last season. We'll have an opportunity to do that again, and we're just going to work to get better every day. But, I like how the group's going to it.
Thank you. Johnny, did you guys scrimmage this last weekend?
We had some live periods, but it wasn't a full-scale scrimmage. Yeah.
You guys scrimmage this weekend, right?
Yes.
I'm wondering when you're able to get out, not only just to do that, but get out in this weather. Is there a little bit of a benefit when it feels like fall?
Well, I think, anytime you go out and whether it's a little rainy, a little windy, little, chill in the air, I think it's good to just get out there from a mental toughness standpoint, even the coaches too, some of the guys getting out there and getting a chance to do it today. So, yeah, I think anytime you get outside, it's beneficial because we don't really play any games inside. I guess maybe we got one this year, but those ones are a little bit easier anyway. So, yeah, getting outside's good.
There's the same with getting in the stadium as
yeah.
well. I mean, that's something that, with construction, is there a difference in what you noticed last year when the guys kind of got over there, how much maybe that helped for us?
Yeah, I think it's always positive because the reality is, I think, especially young players, when they get put into new environments, and then you're looking up at the stands and maybe you lose focus on what you were able to focus on just in practice. So I think getting over to the stadium, getting put in that environment, even when there's no fans over there, it's good to make sure that the guys are staying on their assignments and their techniques.
What do you feel like you got accomplished today? And anybody make a play or two that you noticed that you care to mention?
I thought Darius Snow stood out today, and he made 2 or 3, I think, really good plays in the last period at practice today. So, but we had a bunch of guys that I thought were flying around. I thought, we affected the quarterback with some guys up front. But I think Darius had 2 or 3 right in that last period.
What do you think about Darius and the comeback he made last fall? And does he have more of a ceiling from there that he's climbing toward now?
Yeah, I mean, I think back to when I first got here, and you kind of research guys and find out their stories, and I know he'd been through some tough times with injuries, and there was a position change, and then there was an injury, and it was a long-term injury, and I thought the spring last year was just about him getting through, and getting back acclimated to football. I think in the summer in training camp was him winning the job, which he did, and then I thought he was very consistent all year last year. I think now in year 2 and having putting a year underneath his belt, him kind of becoming a playmaker and doing some things to impact the game. So it was good to be able to see him do that today.
What do you think about Josh Eaton? He's played some football, got some experience.
Yeah.
Seems like he's got some size.
Yeah, he's got good length, good size, good movement skills. Obviously, 7 practices in, so we've got some, body of work. I've been impressed with him. He comes to work. He's a guy that's diligent in his techniques and knows his assignments, and he's made some plays. He made a couple of nice plays early in practice today, so we're excited to see him.
Last year in mop-up situations, Pulliam got on the field a couple times. Looked like he can run and hit a little bit. Where do you see his progression right now?
Yeah, I think, he played on special teams, and then he got on the field at linebacker. I think he's got good size. I think he can run. I think he can hit. I've been very pleased with his progress. We have individual conversations with each guy, like where it ends and what they need to do to reach their goals and how we're going to help them get there. And I thought he had an outstanding offseason in terms of strength and conditioning, in terms of nutrition. I thought he did a great job with improving his flexibility and his bend. And so now you get into football again, and we've seen improvements in his game playing linebacker. So I think he feels more comfortable with his vision. I think he's bending better, which allows him to play the pass better. So I've been pleased through the first 7.
Where you at with the pass rush? You seeing signs there? Got some new guys up in the front. Are they adding anything? Is it more about players developing, you think, or when you look at last year, is there like scheme things you guys can do?
Well, I think there's 3 things, right? And we're attacking on all 3 fronts. One, you want to recruit guys who have innate natural pass rush ability, right? And that's twitch, that's the ability to get off blocks, to feed blocks, the flexibility and the knee bend, okay? The second thing is the techniques, right? So working on the fundamentals of the pass rush, which I think Coach Lange does an outstanding job of, and he's one of the best I've been around. And then the third thing is schematics. Are there some things that you can do based on your strengths and weaknesses as a defense? So I think to answer your question, we're seeing some signs, and also to answer your question, we're kind of attacking it in those 3 areas.
How about some of those new guys specifically? Are they mostly like a Lafayette and Santiago, those Russians for you?
Yeah, those guys, and we're obviously we sort out where guys are going to play within the scheme, but those 2 guys are 2 of the new guys we brought in. I've been pleased; they're working their butts off, and have created some pressure here in the first 7, and then obviously the guys that are already here, developing them. I think we got some guys that have the ability to blitz and do some things at the 2nd and 3rd level. So when you kind of put that all together, we've seen an uptick there.
With you may not be able to comment on this, but Dylan Tatum, how much is he able, health-wise, to get reincorporated, and what does he give you?
Yeah, I mean, number one, it was tough to lose him, especially so early in the season, and you kind of had to roll the whole year without him. But yeah, he's obviously been able to recover, and he's able to get out and do the things that he needs to do. So I think he gives you some flexibility. I think he's good in the run game. I think he's a good blitzer. I think he has really good speed and is able to add that element to the game. So we're excited to have him back and working and being around the guys. And I think, we'll see how the spring goes, but so far he's been doing a really good job with what we've asked him to do.
Is there maybe a deeper level you're able to get to? Like, I think back to last year, you were probably just trying to figure out your personnel and evaluate who you had. Now there's of course some new guys, but you at least have a much better sense of a lot of your guys. So does that allow a deeper level in terms of where you guys want to get?
Yeah, I mean, I think, absolutely. I think the one thing going into last year was you got to be very aware of putting too many things in with a new group, especially, not only was it a new staff, but it was, a lot of new players coming in, and some guys missed spring ball. We had like 11 or 12 guys that weren't with us in the spring. So that was really important, and to make sure that there weren't breakdowns, lack of communication, to be able to really limit the explosive plays, because I think that's the first place you're going to lose. I think in year 2, now that we've got a lot of guys back and guys that, even though we brought some new guys in, they come in the winter, I think we're able to add to the package. Okay, we're allowed we're able to do some things that maybe we've had in the package but didn't install last year. It gives us a little bit more multiplicity in our looks.
Which players are you using with the helmet? I assume the Mike linebacker position.
Yeah, it's still the linebackers, and it's really all 3 of them. And then we rotated all spring, all August, and then we make a decision going into game week who it's going to be.
And who are the 3 that are getting the?
We actually have like 5 guys in. So, I mean, Jordan Hall's in it. Brady Pretzeloff's in it. Marcellus is in it. Snow's in it. So yeah, I mean, it's just there isn't just one guy or just, hey, these guys. We rotate it, and then once we get to the season, we'll make a determination.
What do you think James Adams' problem's been like working with him? And
he's been.
You kind of did that last year with a lot of new guys that you had to work with. What's that been like now?
He's been great. Awesome coach, awesome person, really good communicator, very detailed and thorough. Came highly recommended. So he's acclimated really well. He's fit in with the group, and his players really like him. So it's been good.
Did you have a history with Bert at all when you brought him in?
No, that was one where we saw him in the portal and we kind of went to work recruiting him. But yeah, I hadn't met him before.
Like you said, it seems like the Pittsburgh connection you're trying to build a little bit more.
Well, I think in terms of recruiting, I think you just take Pittsburgh as an extension of the Midwest, right? Like, we kind of felt, and Coach Smith, his vision is for us to do a really good job of recruiting the Midwest, and when I was growing up, I didn't consider Pittsburgh the Midwest, but I mean, from a recruiting footprint standpoint, it is, right? It's not that far from campus, and so we want to do a really good job there, as well as kind of the other within that 5-hour radius.
Ben Roberts is a guy who looked like showed some potential last year. How's he doing this spring?
Doing well. I think he showed flashes last year, and what we really want to see this year is consistency to his game, and he's done a good job this spring, and I think he's got a really high upside. He can be a guy that not only does his job but also impacts the game with disrupting the pocket in the pass game and being really hard to block in the run game.
Anyone else inside there catching your eye that you want to mention? Care to mention?
Yeah, I mean, listen, all the Big Roo, has had a really good offseason, and I think at times he as well flashed last year at different times when he was in the game, and now getting a full workload, being in a second year, he's been impressive. Obviously, Alex is a guy who played a lot of football for us last year. He's been impressive. Grady coming in the portal, I've been impressed with how hard he's worked. And I think he's a guy that is going to be able to play a good role for us. And then, Mike Sean is a guy that's a young guy who's returned. He's turned some heads. He's got some good twitch and some good rush ability. So I've been really pleased with that room, just in how hard they work and what they kind of bring.
Mike Sean was able to get on the field last year and preserve his red shirt.
Yeah.
How different is he now compared to the handful of snaps we saw in Kansas Prairie View? We might have saw him a couple
Yeah.
snaps. I imagine just a freshman making progress.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because you get in the practice situations, that's one thing to check off the box. You get into some live situations, that's another thing. You get to a scrimmage, that's another thing, and then it's actually playing games. So, but he's been doing a really good job.
I know you're still putting the roster together in the nature of college football today, but what are you looking there at the rush end position? Who are some of the guys that are doing that this spring?
Just some guys who are.
Yeah.
Obviously Anthony, who was with us last year, he did a really good job at the rush position. Santiago is a guy there. Anello is a guy shot. So those guys Gillison is another guy there. So those guys are all working in and getting an opportunity to see what they can do. Some of them were injured last year, so coming back, so it's good to have them back in the fold. So I think we got a really quality group in terms of numbers, and now they're just going to compete their butts off and see who the best ones are. So.
All right, thanks for trusting me.
No problem. Thanks, guys.